Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
So I live on a ranch, and we own some cattle. Hay has been really expensive lately, so we needed to sell some cows to afford hay. We had a listing on Facebook Marketplace and some other places about cattle for sale. We had some cows ready for the butcher, so we put them in another pen. A lady DMs us and asks if she can come to the property and take a look. We agreed on a time and then discussed what type of cows we had. The day the lady was supposed to arrive, she seemed to be running late. We waited and she didn't show up. Later, she apologized for not showing up and she asked if she could swing by the next day. I told her that I was going to be doing some busy work, but I'll probably be free later in the day. So it was settled. Next day, I was running some hay to our cows, and when I pulled into the driveway, her car was there. I get out and immediately I am met with entitled parent. Where have you been? Me. Oh, you're here early. I said I was doing some stuff with the cows, but I've got some time to do this real quick. So I take her to the pen and she looks in. She points to the other pen and says, "Why are they separated? Shouldn't these guys be together?" Me. "Oh no, we are butchering them this summer, so we put them in there so we can fatten them up a bit." Entitled parent. Butcher. You torture these wonderful creatures? Now, I'm not one to judge someone who is against animal abuse. In fact, I am with them. Some of these big industries do treat their animals badly, and it's a problem. I'm one not to do that. Cows give us food, so I make sure that my cows are taken care of properly. But what is this lady expecting? I don't care if people like meat or don't, or eat it or not. I don't care. But she came out to a ranch, a cattle ranch. There's bound to be code heading for butcher. Oh ma'am, I assure you, these cows are treated like kings. I make sure their death quick and painless. But these are the cows you are looking for. She just scoffed. I take her by the pen we were supposed to be looking at. So how is this Karen an entitled parent? Well, she had a kid in her car. She is buying him a cow as a pet. She had a small trailer, probably only big enough for one cow. At this point, she called him out of the car. Entitled parent. So which one do you like? Entitled kid. I like that one. This kid had pointed to a calf. This calf was too young to be weaned, taken from his mom, so he would have to be sold with his mom. Me. If you want that one, you're going to have to buy that red Angus right there. That's his mom, and he's too young to leave her yet. Entitled parent says with a disgusting look. So I have to buy both. Me. Yes, ma'am. But since she's a mom, she's very protective, so let's find another cow. Entitled kid. But mom, I want that one. Entitled parent. My baby wants that one. He's just so cute and small. I don't want to get anything too big. Me. So if that's the case, you should go look for some miniature cows. I know some sellers and I can get you their contact information. Entitled parent. Yeah, but I'm already here. Entitled kid. Mommy, can I go pit the cow? Me. No. Entitled parent. Sure, sweetie. What's the big deal? He just wants to pet the cow. Rule number 1 with cattle. Be aware of your surroundings. If you see a cow with a calf and the mom is high-headed, don't go near it. This kid is too young to understand, but his mom is too stupid to look out for her goddamn kid. Now, the mom of the calf this kid went to go Pete is a total witch. She will not put up with anything, so the kid crawls under the panel, and he looked to be about 10 or so. Well, I had to try and go into the pen, but I needed a cattle prong. A cattle prong is just a long rod that delivers a latch shock to the cattle. It's the equivalent of a shock collar to dogs, except it's just long so people can stay safe and keep their distance. Her son goes to touch the calf, and the mom is given all the warning to stay away. He gets close the calf, and it freaks out. Cows kick to the side, not to the back like a horse. So the calf kicked this kid square in the side of the head. He fell over and started screaming. So is his mom. I hate to say it, but it felt so good to see that entitled Karen see what happens when her dumbass doesn't listen to professionals. But now, with all the screaming, the rest of the cattle are wound up. I get my cattle prong, rush into the pen, and as the mom was about to start charging this poor kid, I start herding her away from him, and I get him out of the pen. I gave him back and told her to get off my property. She started yelling at me, but I just tuned her out. I can't stand people like that. Moral. Listen to the people who know what they're talking about. Alright, we were never above mid-class in finances. I, being 20 at the time, was out of the house, thankfully. We, younger brother and I, never had a father in our lives, so we learned the daily motions of a man as best we could. My mother was, at the time, becoming fond of women. What's wrong with my mom is that she despises all men. If she could spit at every man who walked down the street, she would. Trust me. Anyway, having her not liking men didn't make us get the best treatment in the house as, in her eyes, we are his offspring, so we are as bad as our father. After I'd left, my brother would call me from the house phone every night in tears, telling me what she was doing to them, and it seemed to have gotten worse since I had left. It had gone from buying clothes that were cheap and baggy, not giving us anything expensive while she spoiled my bratty sisters, making them pick on him and torment him. One night, he's calling me crying, saying they dumped nail polish. Out back, her only concern was to not get it on the carpets, and the sisters held him down and started making him look like a clown, while Mom just laughed about it and gave them the nail polish. I had asked our mom several times to let my younger brother stay with me, but she would not let me come near him and would call the police when I went to the door to check on him. There had to be something done, and I made a plan. My mom is a chronic pot smoker. I had once found her stash, and it was a lot of weed. Let me tell you. So I called the police about me driving by a house that reeked of pot. I drove down to her house, and sure enough, a minute later, I heard the law coming and the smell of revenge in the air. When the officer arrived on scene, he asked if I made the call. I said yes, and I had to tell him that it wasn't because of that I smelled outside, but that I knew the woman, my mother, did have pot and that she has been abusing my younger brother. The cop called in a backup unit since it was a domestic and could go hairy. The two officers walked up to the house stating the call that was made. She denied it all, so the officers went back down to the car and called for a warrant. Once they received it, they then went inside the house and found the pot. It was a lot more than I expected. She was in handcuffs. I then got to my younger brother, and he explained and backed up my statement. After court sessions, I now have my younger brother. Mom is in jail, and sisters are all throughout the state in foster homes or something. I don't really care. We've left that entire side of the family. Whoever remained on our side in the family was still family, and my mom's girlfriend broke up with her. I'm now 25, and my younger brother, I will not disclose his age, is finally smiling again. It's taken a lot of therapy, and he suffers from PTSD. He goes to a good school with good clothes that actually fit him. He has friends now and has been getting stronger and stronger. A recent post asking for advice on annoyance reminded me of what I did to an ex. The guy was a real jerk, and I'd absolutely had it with him. He worked in Manhattan and commuted in from Long Island, a 90-minute train ride followed by a subway ride and a few blocks of walking. So going home wasn't really an option if something happened to his clothes. Anyway, we'd had a fight the day before, and he called me some pretty foul names because I had corrected him and proved him wrong about some fact he swore was true. He was a pretty jerk, and I have no idea why I stayed with him as long as I did. Anyway, he hated being embarrassed, and one night when he was drunk, he told me how during school, when he was a teen, the seat of his pants gave out and ripped during class. His parents both worked in the city, and commuting home to get him from school or bring him a change of clothes wasn't an option. He ended up having to wear a pair of basketball shorts from the lost found over his ripped jeans all day. The teasing lasted until he graduated a few years later. Anyway, he called me a sanctimonious C-word for politely saying, "Josh, you've got your dates mixed up. The Civil War started in 1860. Not 1859. He was verbally abusive over his mistake and said I embarrassed him. We were playing a trivia game with two friends of his in teams, and I wanted the point for getting it right. Losing team paid for pizza and beer, and his two friends could eat a whole pie each and put away a six-pack on top of it. I'd had enough of his nonsense. His friend brought up the high school incident, and I realized I had the perfect revenge. He wore his blue slacks more often than the others, so wear and tear was expected. They were several years old, and I had to help him fix a hem that let down a few months earlier. Something going wrong with them wouldn't be suspicious at all. So I took a seam ripper and carefully undid every third stitch. Just enough damage that they'd eventually fail, but not so much damage they'd fail the first time he sat down. The next day, he pulled them on and went to work like normal. Around lunchtime, I got a panicked phone call because the entire seat of his pants had torn out, exposing his skid mark stained tidy white ties to everyone in the conference room during a meeting. He had nothing else to wear and obviously couldn't leave the building to go shopping like that. The whole seam had just given way. Damn, it took every ounce of control I had to sound sorry and bewildered. I must have asked a half dozen times how that could just happen. He said they must have been older than he remembered and begged me to bring him new slacks. Sadly, I was at work and unable to leave and help. So imagine a grown man walking around with a suit jacket tied around his waist all day to hide his underwear. He resigned soon after because of the humiliation. I dumped him about a week later. It was glorious. He was utterly humiliated while giving a presentation. I had no idea he had a presentation that day. I just figured they'd bust in the break room or when he sat down at some point during the day. Messing with seams is a great way to get petty revenge on someone. They'll have no idea it was you and think it's just a wardrobe malfunction. So this is more of an indirect, don't work here lady. Side note though, I tend to cuss a lot in my speech and I don't even realize that most of the time. But anyway, now to the story. So for a little bit of background, I work as a security officer guard. I had just gotten off my shift and I was still in my work clothes when I decided to go to a certain safe store on the way home to drop off some bottles and cans and pick up some orange juice. As I was going into the store, I noticed a friend of a friend standing by the entrance. I decided to talk to him for a little bit and then I entered the store. A couple minutes go by and I'm doing my shopping when all of a sudden the manager walks up to me and starts yelling at me, "Are you the one that was screaming and cussing out that one dude, a friend of a friend, in the front?" I sat there confused with a dumb look on my face for a couple of seconds, and then I realized when I was talking to my friend, there was a lady that was going to walk by, but turned around and I didn't think twice about it. She was referring to me and my friend. I say to her, "Oh no, I was talking to my friend outside, but I wasn't screaming or yelling." The employee and my friend are now standing next to the manager, looking as confused as I am. My friend says, "We were just having a conversation, so I'm not sure what you're talking about." The manager says in response, "Okay, well some lady just reported that the store security guard and a homeless person were just screaming and cussing each other out in front of the store and that she was scared for her life." My friend wasn't homeless. He just kind of looked homeless. I responded with, "We were just having a conversation. Maybe we were a little loud, but I wouldn't say we were yelling." My friend says, "Yeah." The manager responded with, "Okay, she did seem kind of like she was exaggerating, but anyway, I'm going to go try to find out what's going on then." The manager walks away. The employee asked us, "Were you cussing by chance?" My friend says no. I say, "Crap, I don't know." The employee says, "You just said crap. I know what happened. We have a regular customer that comes in that is very against cussing." I just start dying laughing because all this confusion was down to the way I talk. Although my friend and the employee were not as amused, but they blew it off anyway. After that, I finished up my shopping and went home. I'm piggybacking off of the HOA trend going around here. This story was relayed to me by one of my favorite professors over 5 years ago, so my apologies if the details are foggy or inaccurate. My professor was a very, very private person, the sort of guy who would hesitate to tell you his favorite color if you hadn't known him long enough. He had recently had an incredibly nosy couple move in next door and realized the flimsy 4-foot fence he had got for the dog wouldn't keep out peeping eyes. So he installed a fence. But instead of using a standard size, which he knew his neighbors would peer over, he built an 8-foot fence. It wasn't even a week before HOA was on his tail, threatening every fine they could and claiming he couldn't have a fence over 6 feet tall. So, being a dutiful citizen, he called the fence company to uninstall said fence. While the fence was being taken down, he closely examined the HOA handbook on the precise definition of a fence. He installed a new 6-foot fence that fit every single regulation, but with a 3-foot brick wall beneath it. Edit. I have plenty more from him. Granted, they don't fit in this, He used them to illustrate points mostly, like one about the horrendous public transport of Galveston where he literally ran through people's yards. He served Cuban coffee during office hours. We got a random sub toward the end of the semester because he had a triple bypass that he had told none of us about.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.